What's up, Michigan fans? Welcome back to the Maize and Bluebeard podcast, your daily podcast for all things Michigan football, Michigan basketball, and all Michigan sports. I'm Chris, your host. Thanks for taking time out of your day to hang out and talk a little Michigan Wolverines with me. We got a great show as always today. We got a lot of football, no basketball to report. So we're going to talk about Joel Klatt's top 25 that he released and talked about on his show post-spring. So we'll see where Michigan landed and what he had to say about Kyle Whittingham and company. And we'll also talk about the offensive line. John Jansen joined Chris Balas of the Wolverine and former offensive lineman Doug Skene. Love when those two get together. They talked with John Jansen, who I also love. So a great trio. And they talked all about the offensive line and what needs to improve and what they've seen so far. We'll break that down. We'll also talk about Michigan baseball and Michigan softball. Talk about baseball, how their midweek game went with Xavier, and we'll talk about softball as they prepare to open up Big Ten tournament play against Ohio State. We'll get you ready. And we'll wrap it up with the question of the day, results as always. All this and more on this episode of the Maize and Bluebeard podcast. Let's go blue. Let's get to it. Joel Klatt from Fox Sports put out his post-spring game top 25. So I wanted to take a look at it and see where Michigan landed in it. He's usually pretty high or pretty fair to Big Ten teams and to Michigan. So I think he'll give us a good shake. So let's see where Michigan lands and what he had to say. Here we go.
All right, number 12. You see this team lower. You see this team sometimes higher. I land kind of in the middle because it's a wait and see for me on one very key element. It's Michigan. Michigan's going to be at 12. It's an offseason to change. We know that. And it's not just like going from Jim Harbaugh to his assistant. This is like massive change for Michigan. They need to change the culture. They need to move away from whatever it was that was going on last year and in years prior. And Kyle Whittingham comes in along with a ton of assistant coaches from Utah, as well as defense coordinator Jay Hill, who I just told you previously, worked with Kyle at Utah as a defensive coach. All eyes are, though, going to be on this element. Combination of Bryce Underwood in his sophomore year and offensive coordinator Jason Beck. Now, Jason Beck, in the last few years, has been outstanding as an offensive coordinator. And he has gotten the most out of guys like Devin Dampier at New Mexico and then at Utah. We'll see if he can do the same for Bryce Underwood. The schedule is not easy. They've got 4 playoff teams on the schedule. They've got home games against Oklahoma. That's week 2 of the season in Indiana. They've got road games late in the year at Oregon. Really tough place to play. And, of course, the big one at Ohio State. I think Michigan could have a pretty good football team. I think the schedule is a little bit daunting for me. And again, it's that combination of Jason Beck and Bryce Underwood. If that meshes well, this could be a really good football team. And listen, you guys know how I feel about Kyle Whittingham. This is one of the best coaches in America. He really is. And Michigan is in good hands. Now, could they win the Big Ten? I don't know. There's some loaded teams at the top, and they're going to be at the very top of these rankings right here. But this could be a good football team. And again, it comes down to those, I think, the most important games, the home games, Oklahoma and Indiana, and then obviously that big one at the end, Ohio State.
There you go. Michigan lands at number 12 for Joel Klatt. You heard what he had to say, and I think that's kind of what we're all waiting to see. You know, if you haven't watched my game breakdown and prediction of record, I said Michigan would go 10-2, but they've got, 3 or 4 50-50 games that really will decide which way their season will go. You've got Oklahoma, you got Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State. Those 4 games. They lose all 4, you're looking at an 8-4 season, which will be a disappointment. You win all 4, you're looking at an undefeated season and a magical special season for the ages. You split them, you're looking at very, very good season at 10-2 with a shot at the Big Ten Championship and at the college football playoff. So I agree with him, and it's going to hinge a lot on Bryce Underwood and what Jason Beck can do with Bryce Underwood and the offense. And I think it's going to go well. The spring game, again, didn't look great, but man, you've got to like take into consideration a lot of things with the spring game. It's just different, you know? I mean, one, they're still learning the offense, and two, it's a hodgepodge on the offensive line. It's a hodgepodge everywhere. And I think our defense is going to be good. I think our defensive line is going to be good, which that's a good thing. But it's easy to focus on that spring game and some of the bad things we saw from Bryce Underwood. But think about the good things we saw with very little coaching from Michigan. Yes, he's had a dedicated private instructor, QB gurus working with him, all that stuff. He's had game time, so he should be more consistent. No doubt there. He needs to get better. But this coaching staff is like the big leagues, and his coaching staff last year was like pee-wee football. Like, it's a huge difference. So let's just wait and see what happens. But I think that's the big thing. You got, when you have 50-50 games like that, the little things make a difference. And Bryce Underwood's development is what will make a difference in those 50-50 games. Whether Michigan has a disappointing, very good, or really good season. So I agree with him putting them kind of in the middle if you look at the rest of it too. Oregon number 1. Can't complain there. I mean, they have choked in the playoffs every year, but maybe this will be their year to take off. Ohio State, Indiana, 3 teams in the top 4 for the Big Ten, and those are 3 of the 50-50 games I talked about. So those are going to be very hard games. And then the other one, Oklahoma, right ahead of Michigan at 11. I can't argue with any of these really at all. I could maybe break it down and flip-flop some teams and things, but I don't know if I would put, I guess it's fair you put Ohio State ahead of Indiana. Indiana's the national champs, but they lost a lot. Ohio State returns their quarterback and receiver that are really good. They got some work to do on defense, but so I think it's fair for the most part. But let me know what you think down below. I do think LSU is a little high. I don't know if they deserve to be number 8 just because of Lane Kiffin coming in. But I'm sure that, who knows? We'll see. But then you look at what's behind them, and it's like, okay, I guess. Yeah, I mean, maybe you could have put Texas A&M over them, but, is USC, should they really be top 8? I don't know. So it's probably fair. But anyway, let me know what you think down below. If you agree, I think that's a great spot for Michigan to start the year. Until we kind of see how Bryce Underwood's doing, and then we'll crack that top 10 quick if he is looking as good as I hope and think that he will. All right, so let's talk about the offensive line. This episode of the Maize and Bluebeard podcast is brought to you by Second Heart Ministries. In a world where so many are overlooked, forgotten, and struggling to be seen, there's a place where they matter. At Second Heart Ministries, they serve veterans, the homeless, special needs families, those battling addiction, underprivileged children, and men and women behind prison walls, reminding them they are not alone and they are not beyond hope. But they can't do it without you. Maybe you can't give financially, and that's okay. But something as simple as hitting follow on their Facebook page helps them to reach the ones who need the most. Because sometimes the smallest act of support can change a life. Second Heart Ministries, giving hope, a second chance, and a second heart. You can find information about Second Heart Ministries in the description box down below. Go Blue. Chris Balas and Doug Skene, fantastic duo. Doug Skene, former offensive line from back in the day for Michigan. Chris Balas, part of the Wolverine. Wolverine will be linked down below, their YouTube channel and their website that always has great articles that I love. They get together once in a while, and it's always a fun time. But they had John Jansen on, who is another former Michigan offensive line, somebody that's fantastic. I love him on 97.1, listening to him in the mornings. I love all his podcasts he does in the trenches, talking to Michigan coaches and players. He does an awesome job, so it's a great combination to have them all together. And they sat down, they talked about the offensive line, what they've seen, what they like, what they think needs to get fixed. So let's break down what they said. Now, last year, the offensive line improved as the year went on. They were young. They gelled finally by the end of the year. And they did show some improvement, especially in the run game. But pass blocking protection was really an issue still, especially on the outside and the blind side, backside. Not just for the quarterback, but for the running backs as well. And I think that is something that they talked about here that's important. Jansen talked about how Jim Harding, how he knows that he said, one of the things I know he drilled on, because this would drive me bonkers last year when you're talking about blocking movement, backside cutoffs. If you can't cut somebody off the backside, you're cutting the field in half. So that goes for pass protection and running, because you've got these amazing running backs, Marshall and Hyder now. And last year you had Haynes and Marshall. And they've got great vision. They can hit that hole. They are explosive. But if you got a guy coming around the backside and they're having to make somebody miss before they even get to the line, you're hurting your run game and you're hurting big play potential there. Because if you can just stop them and just break even just for a second, like you don't have to hold them down forever, but long enough for the running back to get the carry and get up to the line to make his decision where he wants to go. That's huge for this offense. And it's huge in the pass game, too, to give your quarterback time to feel the pocket and stay in the pocket, step up. Or if there's an RPO, it gives it time for it to decide if it's going to be a run or a pass. That's so huge, and they talked about that. They mentioned same kind of thing I just mentioned. They said, last year you have Justice Haynes, good awareness. Jordan Marshall, good awareness. And now you've got, by God, if you don't have somebody this year, Savion Hyder, that can utilize the entire field. So if you find a way to just stalemate on the backside, not allow penetration, don't get movement, just a stalemate. There's going to be, not movement, not pushing them 5 yards down the field, but even if you just lock up and don't let them get past you. There's going to be a bunch of times when Savion or Jordan are bumping their head on the goalpost because those cutback lanes are big in college football. And they both have the speed, the athleticism, and the vision to see that cutback. Oh, I love when a running back sees that cutback. Skene also brought this up, how this has been a problem for years for Michigan. He said, I was just thinking back to what we've watched the last 2 years. Backside blocking has driven me up the wall. How many times have I said not only is backside lazy blocking inhibited the opportunity for the play, but it's also, in my opinion, dangerous. John talked about it a second there, that at the minimum, a stalemate. I don't want stalemates, and I don't think John does either, but you ought to be blocking the backside like you are front side, because if you're just standing around backside and you're just playing basketball, boxing dudes out, now you're going to get rolled up on. You're going to get hurt. Someone's going to make a cutback and you're going to get somebody laying on your leg. You don't want that. That's a very good point. If you don't want a stalemate, but I mean, if you can at least do that, that's great. But if that's what your plan is all the time, then yeah, when everybody shifts on the cutback, somebody's going to fall on your leg, step on your leg, and you're going to get injuries. He said, under Sharon Moore and his regime, his coaching staff, it seemed like backside blocking was an afterthought. So there's a lot of positional stuff going on back there as opposed to getting the inside number or the inside armpit and driving that dude down the hash or up the field. True backside cutoffs, especially when you're zoning. You want to give the backside vision. If we're going to the right, you want to give that back something back over here to the left to look at. You're doing no service if you're just letting the whole thing wash to the sideline. That's a good point, too. Like John said, there are some of the biggest plays we've ever seen at Michigan when zone blocking is backside cuts. Those backs are told you've got to take 3 steps to the front, you got to see the whole thing, then all of a sudden, boom, goes backside because the linebacker flowed too hard. All of a sudden, there it is, because the left tackle made a great cutoff block. And they talked a little bit about fundamentally what needs to change and what needs to happen for this. And I just love watching. These guys did it. They did it for a long time at a high level, so they know this stuff. It's so interesting to hear them talk about it. So they said, what's the importance of your steps and how do you get that for backside or front side? The second step is your power step. How do I get that? So I've got a good base. I'm starting to strain up the field. Your backside, your second step is vital because all of a sudden, hey, I take a step with let's say I'm backside, I'm playing left guard. I take a step with my right foot. That left foot has to split the crotch of that defensive tackle. Now all of a sudden, I'm at worst at a stalemate. I've given my tackle just enough to take his bite of that down lineman, and now we can both work up to the linebacker. If you start to get that movement, you get a cutback. That linebacker that's back there, he comes off front side, I got him as a guard. If he comes off backside, the tackle's got him. And at a minimum, you're talking about a 4-yard gain cutting back. But when you've got Hyder or Marshall, you've got guys that can make guys miss. And now you're talking about 6 or 7 yards or getting up even further to that third level. And he said, I'll take our backs about against anybody in the open field making them miss or running through them, because we got some beefy running backs too. So this was just very interesting. Check it out down below. And these guys have fun together. They're hilarious. So a great chat. Check it out down below and let me know what you think. And today's question of the day, I talk about the offensive line. How many sacks do you think they'll give up next year? So be sure to vote on that. But I'm excited about Jim Harding, what he's doing with this offensive line, the youth, and I'm excited to see the growth and progress. And they showed a lot of strides last year, and I think they're going to show even more this year. And some of these things like that is huge if they can get that backside blocking down. It'll be huge for the running game and the passing game, especially with what Michigan wants to do with both. So exciting stuff. Check it out down below. Michigan baseball was supposed to take on Xavier today in a midweek matchup, but it was rained out due to inclement weather. Obviously. It was rained out due to inclement weather. Anyway, not going to be made up because just of being the end of the season and it being a non-conference game. So Michigan will be off until Friday when they start their weekend series with Minnesota. They're on the road, so it'll be, I think it's 7 or 7:30. So check that out. Big series for Michigan. They've won 6 series in a row. Let's see if they can keep going. And softball starts the Big Ten tournament today. They play this afternoon at 1 o'clock. It'll be on the Big Ten Network. They're taking on Ohio State. They need to go on a run here, win the Big Ten tournament, and you're in. But they need to at least, I don't even know how many games they'd have to win, but they're going to have to make a really good showing. So losing this game would probably end their season, but we shall see how it goes. So keep an eye on that. We'll update you tomorrow, but hopefully you get a chance to check out a little softball and support the softball team as they start the Big Ten tournament against the Buckeyes. Now it's time for the question of the day results from yesterday. Remember, I ask a question of the day every day. So if you haven't voted on today's question of the day, go vote now. You'll find the question under the community tab. Yesterday, I asked, which quarterback for you was the biggest disappointment based on your expectations before they started playing? You could choose from Joe Milton, Shea Patterson, Devin Gardner, or somebody else. Results are in. And here they are. As you can see here, the runaway winner was Joe Milton. And I would agree with that. It would be a toss-up between him and Shea Patterson. Devin Gardner, I was never really disappointed in him. I was disappointed more in the team. I think he had a lot of potential, and he had some beast games where he put up some pretty big numbers. But that team and Hoke, they just never really put it together. It was just one of those bad down stretches for Michigan. They were just not fundamentally sound. They got pushed around too much. They didn't have enough playmakers. They didn't make enough big plays. When the offense played well, the defense didn't play well. When the defense played well, the offense didn't play well. I think Gardner was solid and on a better team with a better coaching staff. I think he would have had a pretty special year. So he never really disappointed me, but he is one that gets brought up a lot by people. But I think it's just more, we were so excited for him, homegrown talent, and he seemed like he had so much potential, and it just never happened for his teams. But you can tell now by watching the blueprint, he knows his stuff. So anyway, Patterson, man, he was like a top QB at Ole Miss in the SEC. We thought he was coming. That was going to be it. Harbaugh was going to take off, and he had some really good games, and they had some good defenses and stuff. But man, he just could not put it together for a full season. He crumbled in big games, especially against Ohio State. So that was disappointing. But I would say Milton, because for a couple of reasons, and mostly it's how it bookends. I mean, it was COVID time, so that was already disappointing anyway, that whole stretch. But coming in, we were so excited about his big arm, his speed, everything. And then that first game they played that year, if you remember, he looked really good. And it was like, here we go. And then he just looked horrible. He could not throw an accurate pass. It was absolutely terrible. And then I think what makes him even more disappointing is you find out later he was injured and he didn't tell people about it. And then he was good. He's been good enough to make it to the NFL and stay on teams as a backup. And when he's played, he's looked pretty dang good in the NFL. So it's frustrating to think what could have been. So I would agree that he is probably the most disappointing to me. I would agree with that for sure. Thanks everybody that voted. Remember to vote on today's if you haven't yet. That's going to do it for this episode of the Amazing Bluebeard podcast. Thanks for hanging out with me. Hope you had a good time. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. We're getting closer and closer to 1,000 subs, at which time I'm going to dye my beard maize and blue, and we're going to do a live stream celebration, and it's going to open up a lot of things I've been planning that I can't wait to share with you when we get there. Also, make sure to hit the like button, hype me up if you get those options. That helps the algorithm, helps push us out to more people, and helps the channel grow as well, as does leaving a comment. And I respond to every comment, so please leave a comment so we can chat down there in the comment section. So I'll see you down there in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. And until I do, enjoy your Wednesday. Have a happy hump day as you get over the hump towards the weekend, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, as always, Michigan fans, go blue.